Hello YouTubers, welcome back to the Talking Shop channel. Guess what? We got some engine parts. Let's get this thing put back together and get her back in the forklift. Okay guys, we're set up on the bench. I'm going to bench build this for a little bit. What I ran into when I took it down is the engine stand does not want to bolt up to the back of the block very well. I made it work, but I wasn't a fan of it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to bench build it to the point where I can put the flywheel housing on. Once I put the flywheel housing on, we'll go ahead and mount it to the engine stand. The engine stand can utilize the flywheel housing bolts where the transmission bolts to the flywheel housing. We can utilize those bolt holes, and it'll work better on the stand that way. Then we can go ahead and put our pistons in and our valves in and all of that jazz. So our first hurdle before we get that far, and this is one of the things, I actually had a lot harder time finding parts for this little Continental than what I originally thought. But the first thing we ran into, originally this crankshaft had a thrust washer on either side. This is one of them right here. And it sat in there like that, and then there's another one that sat in there like that, okay? The problem we got, you can no longer buy those bearings anymore. So the bearing you can buy has a thrust built onto the shell on one side of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to ditch the inner thrust washer, which will be replaced by the bearing shell, and we'll use the outer thrust washer. Now on this crankshaft, to set crankshaft in play, you've got a shim stack. Goes on behind the gear. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to assemble this thing, put the gear on, check end play. If end play is off, we're going to have to pull the gear, and if it's too tight, I'm going to have to find some shims, because these are the original shims that come out of it. But if it's too tight, I'm going to have to find a shim somehow. So that's our first hurdle. I'm going to go ahead and assemble that, and yeah, we'll check our crankshaft end play and see where we land. Okay guys, so we've got the vibration dampener on, we've got the gear on, we've got our shims in, we've got our bearing caps torqued, and I've got my dial indicator set up. So I'm just going to take my plastic hammer, I'm going to give that a couple of light taps forward like so, and we'll come here, and we'll zero the dial indicator. Then I'm just going to take a screwdriver, if I can find where I put it. I just had it, right there. Okay, so we're going to take our screwdriver, and I'm just going to wedge it in here, and we're going to move our crank. We're right at spec. Run about 3 thousandths. I would like to see it a little looser, but all in all, that is not too bad. Well, there, I can get a couple more out of it. Yeah, so right there we're at actually -1. And we go to 3, so that's about 4. I would go along with that. Yeah, so we're actually at -1. And then we go to about 3, which is going to be 4 thousandths. The spec is 3 to 8, so I'm within thousandths. So that sets that up. Crank's done. We just got to put the rear seal carrier, which goes here. Put that on, and then we'll see about getting that flywheel housing on. Okay guys, we're getting ready to build up some pistons here. Got number 1 pinched. Got in the vise, we got the cap off. It's a 4-ring piston, so we got our top groove, our second and our third groove. Of course our oil control ring goes in the bottom. So I've already got our first one on, and we're going to take these guys here. Like so. Whoops. Try that again. These oil control rings are too thin to use a set of piston ring pliers, so you gotta really be careful. There. That's what we're after. So I'm going to gap him. The gap is here. And the bottom ring. Turn it. I'm going to gap it with the pin. Top ring. It doesn't matter as long as the gaps are staggered. Whoops. There we go. Okay. There's the top one. This will be the bottom one. And he is going to stagger to this side. Take him to the bottom ring, like so. Like so. Okay. Now, dot up on the piston rings unless the directions tell you different. That. There's the back. So he was gapped there. And gap him here. So. And then our top ring. Top of piston. Sometimes the dot can be a little hard to see. Rings without dots be installed either side up, and I am not seeing any dot. So we're going to gap him like this. Okay. There we go. So now we got to get our rod bearing. These all the same number? Problem I got is if the notch will not line up in the rod. Alright, I'm going to have to check the book. Hang on, guys. Alright, we're back. Got her figured out. Okay, so we got our bearing in. A little white grease. Okay, and I'm just using fogging oil to give the cylinder a light coat of oil. Out here, I'll bring you guys along so you can see. Napa fogging oil. There we go. Now, you remember when we first took this down, remember we were offset. So number one, the offset has to go to the back of the block. So, we got to go in just like this with that offset going to the back of the block. And I got to get a ring compressor set up. So I am just going to set that in the bore like so. And I got to get my ring compressor set up. Nope, I didn't quite clamp. Definitely don't want to force it or you'll break a ring. So guys, the torque on the connecting rods is 40 to 45 foot-pounds. So what I do is I go 40, and then if you've got to tweak it a little bit to get the holes to line up for the cotter pin, you've got a little extra room to play with. It's not a fold-over lock like Squatch 253 uses, but I'll have to make do with what we got. I ain't gonna go anywhere anyway. Whoa! These look like they're gonna go. Yep. All right, there we go. Camshaft lifters are next. still stout up for the rods, so I just. That's pretty tight. Got quite a bit of lever here. So more or less using this because that's what I got out. Alright, let's get this timing cover slimming on and get this bolt back up. Okay guys, we're back up here on the front of it now. We got the front plate installed. Now, I put the cam in. This is our cam. This is the thrust plate. It's got two bolts that hold it in. Now, normally on engines, your gear has holes in it so you can access these two bolts. This one does not. This gear is solid. So in order to get the camshaft out, you got to pull the gear off. Now it says right in the manual for this engine not to pull the gear on with the threads. You will damage the threads on the end of the cam and you will damage the nut in doing so. So what I've done, of course we've got our timing mark. I've got our crank gear on our timing. Sorry about that phone call. So, yeah, so we can't use the threads to pull the gear on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this over to my little hot plate over here, which I have. And I've already prepped the timing marks on it. I've already got the cam turned so the keyway is lined up. I marked the key on the back of the gear with a paint pen, and then I turn the cam so when our teeth are aligned on our crank and our cam gear, the key in the gear is in the right spot. Now we don't want to get this too hot, and this thing is, that's high, medium, low. Okay. We don't want to get it hot. We're just going to set that on there, and I'm going to let that warm up for a little bit. We're not going to get it smoking hot. Then I'm going to get set up, and we will go ahead and we'll drive it on. Hot potato, hot potato.
What's that?
It's the engine out of that forklift sitting out there. Alright, you guys didn't see that, but off camera I held forward through the fuel pump hole with a pry bar so we didn't drive the camshaft back through the soft plug in the back and knock that soft plug out and create a leak. So I held forward with a pry bar as I drove the gear on. Where you going? Alright guys, we're back here on the front again. We've got our cam gear on, we got our nut. Here's our crank gear, our timing marks. Idler gear, this bearing is pressure fed from the filter. There's a line on the outside of the timing cover that comes, and then there's a port that the oil comes through and oils that bearing, and there's our hydraulic pump drive gear. I just got to do the fold over lock. Next step is going to be valves, but I just realized something. I don't have a valve spring compressor. So, going to have to get one ordered up. That's going to be a wrap for today. I'm going to pick up the tools. I will get a valve spring compressor ordered. And when we come back to the shop again, we're going to do valves, get those installed. We'll get them adjusted. We'll roll the motor over. We'll put the oil pump on. We will put the pan on. And then we can start going on with the cylinder head and the front timing cover. So until next time, guys, we'll see you back in the shop. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.